Good morning guys from Dublin, Ireland. I'm just making my way now down to Connolly station where I am taking the train from there up to Sligo, a journey of around about 3 hours and a quarter, thereabouts. And yeah, very noisy streets here, but it's about 3/4 of a mile down here and from my hotel, so yeah, I'm hoping it's gonna be a good old trip. Never done it before. It's not too bad weather-wise, a little bit grey, but yeah, is there some good scenery en route? I don't know yet, but there's only one way to find out, isn't it? Come with me, we'll head down to the station and I'll see you on the train. Now, I've been staying at the North Docklands Premier Inn, which tends to be one of the cheaper Premier Inns in the city, but yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's only about a 10-minute walk over to Connolly railway station, really. Yeah, you cross the fantastic Spencer Bridge here that spans the Royal Canal, and there's a tram stop at the point if you aren't able to walk it. It opened in 1844 as just Dublin Station. It was later renamed to Dublin Arion Street before changing its name once more to Connolly Station in 1966 after the Irish revolutionary James Connolly. It is the city's busiest station with trains heading off to Belfast, Wicklow, Wexford, Rosslare and of course Sligo. Now, there is a handy connection here with the trams, and platforms, of which there are 7 in total, are all located on the upper level, accessed by lift, stairs or escalator, as you can see here. Inside the station, well, it's smaller than I remember. I was last here after taking the Enterprise train down from Belfast, which in my opinion was a particularly good experience at the time. There is a link here if you'd like to watch that and give me your opinion. Good or bad, you know, they're always welcome. There's a few of the usual eateries on the left here and further inside the concourse. There is a ticket office on your right with additional seating inside and actual ticket machines on your left as you walk towards the gate line, behind which is a large and clear departure board dominating the view. My train this morning was the 11:05 to Sligo, departed from platform 1, and although it doesn't say it here, it was due to arrive into Sligo MacDiarmada station at 14:18, a total journey time of 3 hours and 13 minutes. The Irish Rail app allows you to store tickets on your phone electronically, and I used the QR code to get me through the gate. Absolutely no problem at all. And notice here that only platforms 1 to 4 form the terminus part of the station, and platforms 5 to 7 are through platforms over to your left. And platform 1 is a bit of a longer walk than the others, but it's not really that far. One of the Enterprise trains to Belfast I was telling you about earlier was at platform 2 at the time of my visit. Now, passengers for that train, they were waiting to board in the adjacent building here, hence the tensor barrier on the platform. But you can just walk around that and eventually you will arrive onto the much quieter platform 1. Now, our train wasn't here yet, but I spent an enjoyable few minutes watching the locomotive for the Belfast train coupling itself to the coaches. And then it wasn't long before our train showed up, a class 22,000, and similar to the one I took over to Cork earlier in the year, but this time I would be travelling in standard class. Now, I decided to board right at the front of the train, which is also the designated door for bicycles, as ably demonstrated by one of my fellow passengers here. And I'm thinking about doing a few videos next year taking my bike on board trains and ships, and I'd certainly like to see how easy or not it is, and plus I need to lose a bit of weight. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in watching on the channel. Standard 2-2 seating configuration. I chose a table seat on the left facing forward and settled in for the journey. Okay, so here we are on board, and I don't think every seat is reserved because is empty, and yeah, but some of the seats, like that one up there, which is not sure whether that's 35 or 36 to be honest, that has a name on it, so I think I should be okay here. Fingers crossed anyway. It doesn't look that busy at the moment. Yeah, the observant amongst you, and I know there are many, may have noticed that I had a reserved seat for this train in coach C. But it turned out that that was an airline style seat facing backwards, and it wasn't that conducive for filming. and I tend to prefer facing the other way anyway. You know what, I feel a bit guilty sometimes for not sitting in reserved seats on a train, but yeah, they're often not the type of seat that I would choose, and you may end up cramped next to a complete stranger when there's a half-empty, unreserved coach somewhere else down on the train. I mean, we weren't particularly busy at this point, but yeah, I'd assumed somebody would sit in the seat anyway once they'd realised that the passenger it was intended for hadn't turned up. I know I would. But yeah, what are your opinions on this? Does it make me a bad passenger? I'm sure you'll let me know what you think in the usual way. We left Dublin Connolly a couple of minutes later. That's no problem, is it that? At grey skies this morning, you have views over the electrified tracks here that carry the many commuter services in and around the Dublin area. And we crossed the Royal Canal for the second time, and also the railway line that leads down to the small Docklands terminus I walked past on my way to Connolly earlier on. And we then pass very close to Croke Park, home to Gaelic sports. Its capacity of 82,300 makes it the largest stadium in Europe not to be commonly used for association football. Now, unfortunately, a massive wall obscures the view from the train, but you may just get a slight glimpse here as we look behind us after the wall. Shortly after Croke Park we stop at Drumcondra, where quite a few passengers boarded, and then Broombridge. It's only there that we really emerge from the suburbs of Dublin and into the open countryside of County Kildare and Leeslip Louisa Bridge. We don't stop at this station. It's mainly served by commuter services to and from Dublin, and it would be approximately 20 minutes until our next stop at Maynooth, where we arrived 10 minutes late. Originally opened in 1848, and Maynooth Station closed in 1947 and wasn't reopened again until 1981. The Royal Canal, again, is adjacent to the station on its north side. And it's worth noting here that the line is double track up to this point, but from here on in it's going to be single track with passing loops all the way to Sligo. The Dublin to Sligo line itself was opened in 1847 and is 134.25 miles long. And no electrification on this line, as you've probably gathered. It is operated solely with diesel multiple units these days. And it's actually one of Irish Rail's intercity services, though I always think that word conjures up images of high-speed trains with limited stops dashing around the country. With a maximum line speed of just 75 miles per hour, though, I would suggest maybe long-distance branch line would probably manage people's expectations a little more. But, you know, that's absolutely fine. I wasn't in any rush and I was really enjoying the scenery. Enfield was our next stop, another station that closed for a while in 1963, but was later reopened in 1988, and at this point, it was time to have a bit of a closer look at the train. Well, we had 4 carriages on the train, A, B, C and D, where I was. And the first thing to note was there's no first class seating, it is standard class only. I walked the length of the train and yeah, all the seating was the same, a mixture of table and airline style in the 2-2 configuration. The other important thing to say is there is no catering provided on this service. I believe Irish Rail may be trialling vending machines, if that's any solace, but yeah, it's not quite the same if you ask me. As you may have seen before, there is a designated area for 2 bicycles in Coach D here. They must be booked on intercity services. And the seat itself, a slightly winged headrest with good padding on the back and a good solid cushion section here too. A thin retractable armrest and USB charging facilities on the side here. The table was of a good size, plenty of room for all my stuff, including food, don't forget. And underneath it, the table legroom was adequate and the carpeted floor reasonably clean. Above your head, there's plenty of room for small luggage storage, and there's additional large luggage storage near the vestibules. I sat in one of the airline style seats for comparison purposes and was surprised to find it had a conventional power supply as well as USB charging, which I thought was pretty useful. A legroom was average, I would say, but you've also got a flip down table here, but this one clearly hadn't been cleaned. But generally though, it was quite good for standard class. Nice comfortable environment. The shame there was no catering, but yeah, I think a trolley would do really well on this train, but yeah, overall a really positive experience. Up next was Mullingar, and we passed the Lynn Mullingar Greyhound Stadium here on our approach into the station. Now, Michael O'Leary of Ryanair fame grew up near the town, and Niall Horan of One Direction was born here apparently. Now, the station itself I thought was really interesting. Opened in 1855, you could quite clearly see that there used to be a branch line leading off here, which I believe went to Athlone. And then you pass the fantastic signal box and this kind of semicircular building in front of a large canopied platform area. A truly beautiful station this was, I thought, and well looked after too. We soon got the green light from the signal, and that, of course, was the reason I left Mullingar. Shortly afterwards we pass alongside the mysterious Loch Boyle for a while, the water of which feeds the Royal Canal we've already crossed a couple of times on our journey. There are 4 main islands in the loch. Church Island, which was home to the hermit St. Loman, named because of the ruins of a church known as St. Loman's Oratory, that used to be in the parish of Mullingar. St. Loman was a hermit on the island. And then there's Sudara Island, Ladies Island, and Carrick Philbin Island. We then crossed the Inny River and vast peat bogs before journeying into County Longford itself. The scenery was definitely improving at this point. And it was, of course, the town of Longford that we reached next, the biggest town in the county with a population of around 11,000. The station, 76 miles from Dublin at this point, opened in 1855 and retains its characterful signal box and footbridge. We've now left the section of the line that operates as the western part of the Dublin suburban rail commuter network, believe it or not, and we're actually 2 hours into the journey at this point. And for the rest of the route, though, you do get more of a sense of remoteness. And Longford was once the terminus of the Midland Great Western Railways line here, and the extension up to Sligo opening 15 years later in 1862. Drummond next, and we were still about 10 minutes late. Look at this interesting bower-roofed waiting room here on the platform. The station is actually shared with a short section of the privately owned Cavan and Leitrim Heritage Railway, the original line having closed in 1959. There's also an interesting water tank here and some rather beaten up old Forber station buildings as we leave the actual station itself. We then have views towards Loch Tap to the south before crossing the bridge that marks the boundary between County Leitrim and County Roscommon. Our train is much quieter now, and I've switched sides for a while to capture the approach into Carrick-on-Shannon and its quirky waiting room and signal box. Now, interestingly, the town itself lies within County Leitrim, whilst the station is over in County Roscommon. And we passed the 100-mile milepost at 13:31, 2 hours and 24 minutes after leaving Dublin. This gives us an average speed of 36.5 miles per hour. To celebrate this achievement, I decided to go and have a look at the one accessible toilet of the 4 that were available for use on this train. Soap and water was present, and the air dryer worked. There was a sign saying not to leave your child unattended above the baby changing facility, which I guess is to stop them being swapped, and sure enough, none were available today, although there was a suspicious looking mark on the table. Yeah, overall the toilet was okay really. Everything was available and working as you would expect it to.
Please mind the gap. Thank you for travelling with Euro Air.
More rugged scenery as we travelled west through County Roscommon. You may have heard the on-board announcement there, all of which were given in Irish and English. Arriving at Boyle, there is more interesting station architecture. The signal boxes in particular, well, they seemed a little bit different at each station. Boyle is another station with a passing loop, and it is here that we meet another Dublin-bound train, the 1305 from Sligo. And just thinking about the announcements, well, I found them useful for two reasons really. The first because the onboard displays, well, they only showed the kilometres to the next station and not the actual station name itself. And the second because although the guard had put in an appearance early on in the journey, well, no tickets were checked, and after that, just never saw him again. Well, I tried out the Wi-Fi, which was excellent. Extremely good this was, and a real plus point, enabling me to write up some of these notes, watch YouTube videos, and scroll through social media. Absolutely no problem at all. And not that there was much call for that, because just looking out the window, the scenery was just getting better and better. And it was such a great day as well. Imagine this trip with beautiful blue skies. That would be absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? And we're into County Sligo now, and it's pretty much north all the way to the end of the line. We've got to call at Ballymote though next, and after arriving into the station with its lovely water tower, we've come to a halt, and amazingly, we've made up all of our time. It did feel as though our train had speeded up a bit since Dromod, but of course we are reliant on the punctuality of the trains coming the other way too. Anyway, on to Connolly next, the penultimate station on the line, with what looks like an old goods shed here, and quite a substantial station building after it. And I think it's great, a lot of these buildings, like the signal boxes, our goods sheds, have been retained, and whether they're in use or not, for me, it conjures up images of a time long gone when steam was king, and a lot of these stations would, you would think, be far busier than they are today. Though having said that, it is by no means an underused line this. Pre-COVID, 1.4 million passengers used this line annually, and in 2023, passenger numbers were back up to 90% of what they were before the pandemic. Well, I'll certainly be contributing to these passenger numbers again, and I'm already planning another trip over to Tralee at the end of the year. By the way guys, if you've enjoyed watching this video, if you could leave me a like, comment, or even subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, that would be absolutely brilliant. It really helps me out, and yeah, it allows me to make more content like this, which I hope ultimately inspires some people to go out and just try these trips themselves. As always, your support is really appreciated. Thank you. And finally we approached the end of the line at Sligo. The price I paid for this one-way journey was €17.39, and that was for a fully flexible fare. Not bad, is it, that, for a journey of over 3 hours? Now Sligo station itself, yeah, well, it looked like one of these places that's probably seen better days, to be honest. I presume that these rusting steel girders here held a roof long gone, but yeah, in a way, that kind of gave the station itself a bit of character somehow. Anyway, I disembarked the train and I lighted onto platform 1, where I just looked back at our chariot and just took a minute or two to sum up the journey. Right guys, Sligo, and we're actually about 3 minutes early in the end. Yeah, it's an interesting station. I guess at one point there would have been a roof over all this lot. And did you see that junction as we were approaching the station? I wonder where that goes. Anyway, what did you think of the journey? Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good really. It was quite relaxing. Yeah, for the money it was pretty good. It's not fast, is it? I would tend to consider it to be more of a kind of a long distance branch line really, with single track for quite a bit of the way, wasn't there, with a couple of passengers. We saw trains heading towards Dublin, but yeah, all in all quite enjoyable. Like I said, for the money it's pretty good. Thank you very much for watching. I'm off to catch a bus now, so I hope you can enjoy me on that adventure as well as further ones to come. As always guys, thanks for watching and cheers for now.